Hello and welcome to this episode of Pause with Nandini on NRI Affairs. Rabbi Shergill is more than a musician. He's an emotion, he's nostalgia, he's friendships, he's afternoons with a cassette player and perhaps an achy heart. So, for people of my generation and many who have followed, you will understand how special this particular guest is for us. And I'm so happy to welcome you to our show.
Well, thank you for having me.
It's very early in the morning where he is, but we're going to ask him lots of difficult questions. And what I did, Rabbi, was before you came on, because I was so excited to have you on the show, I posted on my Facebook group that I was having a conversation with you. And lots of my lovely friends have written in with comments and questions. So I might include some of those as well. And I have friends from across India and Pakistan. So you'll get some of those as well coming to you today.
It's all good. Fire away.
All right. So just a little introduction for the two people who don't know Rabbi. Rabbi came into our world with his debut album Rabbi and the monster hit Bulleh Ki Jana. His music's been described as rock, Punjabi, Sufi style, semi-Sufi, semi-folksy, lots of descriptions out there. But the most important thing is that it touches the heart, and it's something that's so memorable that even years after we heard the first song, it just continues to hold our attention. In October 2008, he released his second album, Avengi Na Ja Nahi, and this album contained songs and deals with issues like communal violence, and he spoke about the Bilkis Bano case, expressing social responsibility, need for collective morality. And I think, unfortunately, those things and those issues have become even more pressing and important in today's world. We'll see if we can go a little bit into that space as well. And then he also released his third album, which was called Just Three. And of course, his musical influences range from rock to Punjabi to Sufi. His favorite musicians, Bruce Springsteen, Led Zeppelin, Aerosmith, Jimmy Page. We'll hear a little bit more about that as well. So I will just now stop talking and ask him his question, which was my first question. What I found quite interesting was that your mother was a poet and your sister is a poet as well. And of course, your monster hit was written by, the words are from Baba Bulleh Shah's poetry, who was a revolutionary philosopher and Chisti poet. And they say that poems can go into spaces that weapons fear to tread, right? So the poetry and revolution and music, how do these things connect in your life?
I think poetry is the primary art, if you ask me. When we say art, I think there's a lot of stuff that we now have come to mean about it. But the more I go on, I figure that it all starts with poetry. Poetry is the first time that we start taking some sort of liberties with syntax and cognition, things like that. So I think it all starts with poetry. It all starts with the mom, singing something to you. I think poetry does the best job of conveying an emotion, and it all starts there, I think. All art maybe just blossoms beyond poetry. So poetry is, I think, primary in that sense, not just for me, but just for everyone. And music is, again, something very unique to our species. I don't know, maybe there's other primates or other mammals whose utterances we can define as music. But music is something that that is quite unique to us. And it's not just, so right now we have categorized people who indulge in this activity as a separate class of humans. I don't really think that's very accurate. We all sing. You could sing badly, you could sing out of tune, Well, then what's to say? What's a tune? And what's a pitch? So music, I think, is I mean, the more you think about it, it defies most common categorizations or descriptions. I think it's fundamental to who we are. Some people say that it's a sort of a response of humanity at the wildness or the sheer violence that surrounded them initially. Um, whatever it does, I think we all are born musicians, whether you like it or not. It's a species behavior. We all do that. Now in modernity, especially in my experience at my concerts, I find it pretty much lays down the terms of our agreement, as a society. The song you're singing is 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 going to decide the terms of your connection to the other. So now, more and more, I'm beginning to understand the depth at which it all affects us. And I was getting affected by it also, but unbeknownst to me, I didn't really have this maybe layered an understanding of what was happening, but it was happening all the same. And I was drawn to music. I think I was drawn to poetry in a contrived, artificial way initially, because everyone else around me was a poet, and being a good poet was sort of a mark of respect, and you wanted the respect of those around you. So maybe, shopkeeper's son wants to sell clothes, and but a poet's son may write something worth writing. But at the same time, I realized that poetry is a very private activity. It has a public dimension, but if it doesn't have a private trigger, it doesn't. To me, the kind of poetry, the kind of art that has meant something to me, I find has always come from in a clearly identifiable source. It's like, what are you really trying to say? I'm paraphrasing Carlos Santana here, but he says, you write a song, what do you mean by it? I say, hey, I love you. This song is for you. But things, these intimate things are like the morning mist. They evaporate really quick. Those are not things that you can shout at from a megaphone. They have to start in an intimate corner of your being. From there it starts. And if you do a good job of capturing that, then it has a chance at becoming universal. But if you are like a lot of Indian popular music, I felt I wasn't drawn to it initially because there was no privacy, no private moment in it that I could find. Like our yours and my generation, and even right now, it all starts with films and cinema. Cinema is the big elephant in the room. Cinema is where all the different art forms now come together. It's what defines a civilization, and the successful civilizations are the ones that deserve our respect or deserve the international community's respect, all tend to produce art. And that's the reason we see that it's not so easy to bomb Iran, right? Because it's got Makhmalbaf, it's got Abbas Kiarostami. So those are all my considerations. It was all taking shape. See, I grew up in a house which had Gagan Gill, who is this year's Sahitya Academy winner.
Beautiful. Yes.
To Nirmal Verma, a Gyan Feed awardee. my mother, awardee of Punjab's highest honor, countless poetry recognitions. So I grew up around that. So it was, I had to figure out my own way. And I figured if I can just paraphrase Tolstoy here, he says, a young man wants nothing to do with his family, he wants to run away from it, and that's exactly how I felt. I needed the raw material that my family, but I realized that for me to be me, I really had to put some distance between me and my family. And I think that's with all artists. It's all good. I think we'll start there. It's not to be read by those who can judge you. It's to be read by those for whom it'll have some meaning, for whom it can become a backstory of their life, or it can provide them with some deeper understanding of, I don't know, what would Anupam Sood's paintings mean to her family? It would perhaps nothing. What would M.F. Hussain or all the great artists, what would the people around you start to see themselves or start to look for themselves, and it becomes an uncomfortable, awkward thing. So, so this is the dance between privacy and public, expression of your art. I think that most artists have to deal with.
Yes, of course. It's interesting because a creation is typically a solitary or an inward looking process. But then, when you've created that and you take it out into the world, your relationship to that art, it can change. And for you to have, I want to talk now a little bit about Bulleh Ki Jana, right? We have to go there, even though I don't know, like I know, for instance, authors who've had one enormous blockbuster, they almost start feeling like their relationship to writing gets, changed, or audiences sort of are looking for the next one just like the previous one. And some of those things can affect the creative process. But before we go there, I want to ask you a little bit about the process of that song, how that came to be, and then this explosion that happened with it, word of mouth, beautiful music video. So a friend just told me that Dipti Gupta was the music video director, and just the fact that it became so dear to so many, and we felt like we had a real connection to you because of that song, and this is the myth, and this is the beautiful sort of paradox of not knowing the artist but feeling so close to the artist because of what they create. So talk to me about what that meant to you and what that relationship has been over the years.
See, I'll say something here. I think I often like to think that I shouldn't be judged for how I behave around people. I mean, it's perhaps a little convenient on my part, but I think the real distilled truth of at least my existence tends to come out in my songs. I spend enormous time and effort trying to say clearly what I want to say. I place a great emphasis, great care on laboring on each syllable, on each perhaps note, to make it just right. Because the recorded form of music is, I think it's a crystallized event. It's a crystallized form. it holds great promise of being able to take a snapshot of your inner life, inner being. And like, maybe Heidegger says somewhere that, it's there is no me, it's just us, it's we. Because you're thrown into this world. How would I know anything about Bulleh? How would I know? I'm thrown into a world which already has its motivations, its drives, the narratives it's weaving, and I maybe pick up a few of those along the way. I synthesize those. So I feel that the artist synthesizes a contemporary reality. He's sort of a snapshot of the times. He's sort of a crystallized historicity or something. So that's one view of how I relate with my songs. I like to think, perhaps a little grandiosely, that they are a little snapshot of the times, and maybe 500 years down the line, somebody were to find them and could play them, that they would perhaps understand a little bit of what was going on. That is one way of how I look at it. The other, Bulleh was, it was something that I really wanted to say. It was something that connected with me, that resonated with me. My father is an oriental scholar, the only true blue genius that I actually knew firsthand. So, I mean, my mom and my sister, they must have overachieved by factor of infinity when it comes to what my father actually achieved. But he was a real genius of my life. And he was an oriental scholar, and I pretty much learned everything from him. So one of the things that I got from him was contemplation and introspection and appreciation for Indic literature. And we have our own, we're not existential in the French sense, but we have our own very distinct ideation, contemplation of life. So that is something that I got from my father. It's like, and he never really gave me anything much formally, but just see him hold a sermon here and there, and just see him discuss really esoteric topics with my mom, who was his greatest student, by the way, is something that informed my life. And I wanted to be able to be half as anchored as my father. If you saw him walking down the street, you almost saw a tree walking along. It was just his roots. There were invisible roots everywhere he went. So I just pretty much was trying to anchor myself. My father he went away. I think he was. Let me just try to be really clear about this. Did I write it while he was alive? My father passed away in 1909. So it was, I don't know, perhaps there was this anxiety about seeing him grow old, and a whole bunch of things that were going on in our family life. He was having a great difficult time in the village with our ancestral land. There was a family feud going on, and my father was primarily taking care of it. And you could sense his anxiety and vulnerability. And there was me, good for nothing, just lounging around the house. Couldn't help him much. So the song was pretty much an encapsulation in some way of what I was feeling. It's a little, I was still in my 20s. It was a precocious time, but I was a precocious guy. I wanted to be able to hold forth on these difficult topics. And But at the same time, I didn't want to be a hoax. I wanted it to be authentic. So that meant that I would have to form some sort of relationship with these things. And which is what I attempted to do ever since I turned 25. So, and in the course of the, I'm maybe jumbling up the events, but I remember my mom coming up one day to my room with lots of books and just dumping them on my bed and saying, okay, go ahead, do what you want to do. And one of those was Bulleh Shadiyan Kafiyan. And I started reading a lot of stuff. And one of my, at that time, the way I approached composition was I would first go through a lot of books and figure out if there is a writer that speaks to me. And then I would, open up the book and I would just pass through the pages and just try to find something that meant something to me. So I came up with two songs which meant something to me, two compositions, two long poems actually. One was Sadde Wal Mukhda Mode, Pyarya Sadde Mukhda Mode. Je mai le challe khede na uzar na jor, Bulla Shah sa marna nahi, mar gaya koi hor. So that was something that meant something to me. And then the other was Bulla Ki Jana Main Kaun. And Bulla Ki Jana Main Kaun was a little bit easier to set to verse. At the same time, it was simple to understand, and it was deep, and it meant something to me. So one evening I say, okay, I'm going to try to, try to give a shot at composing these things. What should I do? So I had a process. Because most of the time I was going around, just banding about my scratches and tapes, and most of the people say, hey, Rabbi, this is just too Western. This is just, you're too, I don't know, rock and roll, too posh. This won't work, and we need Bhangra, things like that. So I was taking all of that on board, and I say there's no point changing myself to the point that I don't recognize myself. And so then I started looking at, then as a student of music, of composition, I started listening to Indian stuff, and I found a few people that really left a deep mark on me. One is Abida Parveen, and although I couldn't really use any of, I didn't really use any of the techniques she uses, but then I said, okay, which is the most popular Indian song? And, I was in an Indian neighborhood, and there was something happening around. I think I must have heard Damadam Mast Kalandar, Roona Lela.
Which city were you in? Where are you now?
Delhi. I was in Delhi those days. And so I heard Damadam Mast Kalandar. I said, let me just figure out what scale is Damadam Mast Kalandar. And I think it's Lydian. And that's how I understood stuff. I was just so far removed from most, traditional Indian music. I didn't understand rag and all the rest. So I started mapping out the scale I was hearing, and I think it seemed Lydian to me. So I said, okay, so this is Lydian. Okay. So the Phrygian and the Lydian are close. So, okay, so let's just start here. It sounds nice. Yes, it seems like something I may have heard somewhere. Okay, this can even work in Western style. So, okay, let's just go. So, you spend a lot of time just strumming away, trying out ideas. And I came up with a progression: C sharp minor, G sharp minor, A. So it seemed a little not the usual one. So I started looking at the chords, and the chords seemed cool. And then I said, okay, the phrase has to be an Indian phrase. It cannot be, because the Western melody is not really a melody. It stays at one note, or it's short, repetitive, similar sounding phrases. Na 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 na. So that's how it goes. So that's the Western thing. And I said, all of my music that I'm forming about is having so much trouble finding takers. Perhaps I should try to do something that has some chance at something. So I said, okay, so let me think about it. So I wanted to come up with a circular Indian melody. I said, I want something circular. So I came up with that. But rest of the song, I didn't know what to do with it. So the rest of the song is still Western. So
Are you doing all this by yourself, or do you have a buddy?
I was by myself. And we tried forming bands. I had a band in college called Kafir. Yeah, just trying to be a little cool about, a little cheeky about it. And also at the same time, I was trying to reference Shiv Batalvi. He would use the phrase kafir so much, and I really thought was sort of a badass phrase, and I thought I'd be cool. I thought I'd be cool if I could use it, so I use kafir. So we had a band like that, and but I realized that I couldn't get anyone to really feel the lyrics the way I felt them. It just was not happening. Most of my friends were normal Delhi chaps, just trying to play music or play Bon Jovi. We'd get together, we'd play Bon Jovi, we'd play, Megadeth or, U2 or things like that. And then we wouldn't really understand the art or the effort that went into the lyrics. And I was always a student of lyrics. And at the same time, there was some deep anxiety about my father. My father was fading away. And I had this deep crisis of identity, and I really needed to shore it up. So I wanted to learn the language. So I had my grandmother who lived with us. And I started, I think the last 2 or 3 years of our life, I really started listening to her very carefully. And I also started listening very carefully to my own father. I would listen to their conversations. I wanted to soak up the language. They spoke.
Did you speak Punjabi then? Or would
Yes.
normally
Yes, No. We speak Punjabi at home, and but like a normal Delhiite or these
yes, of course,
public school flakes, we were just it was Hindi or English, So I wanted to learn the language like really, really well, but at the same time, there was no one to practice it with except my father, and I cannot compose songs with my father, right? So I'm just trying to, so there's all of this stuff happening. I want to learn the language. I want to be respected as, if not a poet, then at least a lyricist. I wanted them to have some authenticity. And in all of this, I was trying to harness the insights of literature. And so I was somewhat cradled by Tolstoy every now and then. Hemingway. Hemingway was a huge influence of my life. I think now that I'm talking to you, all of this is coming up. I used to love his phrase, write the truest line, write the truest line. So I would try to write the truest line I knew. So I was trying to do something authentic. At the same time, I couldn't help but be somewhat informed by the utter inauthenticity of the times we lived in. I mean, what's a public school going, mostly Hindi speaking kid, trying to learn roots Punjabi. What's happening there? So at some level, it is anchoring me at some level. It is disconnecting me, because I'm getting disconnected from my friends, from my peers, and most importantly, from Delhi. One of the lasting regrets of my life is not having been a true Dilliwala when I should have been, when I could have been. What I mean by that is I grew up in Delhi, and I think to be a Dilliwala is to connect with Delhi, and to connect with Delhi is to connect with Delhi's poetry. And I don't think I did that. I don't think I gave Ghalib the nod when I should have. I didn't stick around for Mir Taki Mir. Heck, I didn't even go to Sarmad's Mazar till about really, really late in my life. And those are the things, those are the edifying things about being a Dilliwala. Without that, you have nothing. So that is something, all of that was going on. But this cosmic dance of, picking something and losing something was happening, despite my best intentions. There wasn't much I could do. So I tried to, I think I tried in that song, Delhi, I did try to write about Delhi I knew, but unbeknownst to me, there is another deeper layer of Delhi. A town is built upon another town, right? And Delhi's been built up many times, and I only dug skin deep. That is something that that rankles. Yeah.
It's so interesting you're talking about this. When I posted on Facebook, one of my friends called Rima Ahmed, she said, so I said, does anyone have a question? So her question I found very interesting. She said, what's the hardest thing he has made peace with in life? I love his work and how he conducts himself in public. Tere Bin was my favorite.
I don't think you make peace with it. You abandon. I think you abandon stuff. I think the disquiet you carry with you, and it's a dull ache. It's a dull ache that every now and then you caress a little bit. It's important. I think that's what makes you. So I think my father, his passing on was the hardest thing for me. And it took the most internal reserves of mine to come to terms with. It took a long time. Perhaps I might say that I've come to terms with it, but there's every now and then, like I was telling you, there's a dull ache. So my father was a love of my life, is the love of my life. I don't think if I have to close my eyes, like in those new age therapy sessions, they say, now think of the person or think of the moment of pure love, it would have to be my father. So what I understand by my understanding of love is almost entirely informed by my father. I mean, he was not the one to give into platitudes, or he was not the one to dole out saccharine love. He was just solid, steady. I fall sick and it's June and there's no fan. My mother would abandon me because she couldn't take the heat. I mean, she loved me dearly. But my father, through thick and thin, he would be there, changing the wet bandages or, whatever. So that was the most difficult chapter of my life. There's other things. There's a whole bunch of difficult stuff that we're dealing with. I think as there's the climate change. It's deep anxiety. I mean, I keep waking up with nightmares. I think I hear of a lot of others who are coming up with that. And on top of that, I think the spark the um, the barood, the tinder is climate change and some deep medieval scars of our sparks from our conscious unconscious are and now emerging, and they are going about busting up into a flare. So there's a whole lot of stuff dealing with Delhi's pollution right now. I mean, it's right now when I talk about it, it turns into an environmental activism rant, but it's not that. It's a deeper thing. It's existential. It's seeing the one place that you loved and seeing it covered in haze and seeing it going down. It's very difficult. It's very difficult to see what's happening to Delhi. It's beyond tragic, and it's just not Delhi. It's all North India.
Yes.
I mean, we have normalized 800 AQI, 900 AQI. If you have a conversation with someone and you say, man, I can't take it, I'm going out, and they say that what's the problem here? Get more air purifiers. So right now, I cannot find people who share my angst. And that's perhaps the greatest hit of my life. That's what I've been rocking to all my life. I don't find people who share my concerns and share my grief. There are a few. I think the delusion in Indian society is mind-boggling. It's the primacy that they accord to the stuff on which they choose their governments over the ones that are actually killing them. Is when you see the disconnect of these two, it's staggering. It's deep disquiet, and it shuts you up. I've been in environmental movements. I was climbing up billboards for Greenpeace, and I really wanted to be the person, to be a sort of embodiment of reactive art, of proactive art, of doing something. And right now, when you just described and you said the second album has songs which talk about social issues, so immediately I felt, oh my goodness, so this is what's been happening all this time. People don't really think of, I mean, I'm not making a critique here, but I'm just, even myself, we don't say the first album spoke about love or contemplation or this or that. So the way we tend to even package social themes or the stuff that means the most to us as that packaging reduces their place in our in the pyramid of the stuff that's important to us. So I think that is what's happening. We don't share the same pyramid. I have a different order of stuff. I love Delhi. I don't like living out of India. If I could, I'd be there in a heartbeat. But it's just I developed a respiratory issue. I developed a dust allergy, which makes it really difficult for me to be around. I was in Delhi just now for 2 months, and I just couldn't stop wheezing. And
yes, that's heartbreaking though, because you care deeply and you see the apathy as well, and sort of, it is, yeah, I hear you. And what you said is quite interesting, that even that is love. Even if you care about the environment or you care about Delhi, it's coming from the source, which is love, right?
well, yes, everything that we do, ultimately, there's only love. Lenin was right all along.
Okay, I'm going to talk to you about, I'm going to, tell you what Zishan Ahmed says. He's from Karachi.
Right.
Says, "Oh my God, I love him. Give him my
Mm.
love from Karachi. I missed his concert when I was in Delhi back in 2016. Still regret.
Right.
My question, one of my all-time favorites is Jugni. I love it.
Right.
You've been doing jazz versions of your songs lately. I really liked Bulleh and Tere Bin. I also feel Jugni would be a good one to do a jazz version of. Please keep making amazing music."
Well, thank you, Zishan. I did 4 songs in as a part of this BLA Jazz Club thing. 2 I've released,
Fantastic.
Bulleh and Therebin. So there's 2 more to go. See, I made that because I was there for a concert, and we made a call here and there, and I met up with Claudio, and Claudio is an institution in Italy, and just the greatest, sweetest chap. And we hit it off, and we started discussing stuff, and it came together somehow, somewhere. I had about 4 days to give to this, and I said, okay. I spoke to my producer, said, can we make it happen? Said, okay, let's just give it a go. So 4 days. So that includes getting the musicians and driving vast distances for practices, and just being ready. And so I think this is how perhaps this is the way forward for me. I'm looking to collaborate with stuff that really excites me, or the form of music that means something to me. So jazz is indeed up there, but I may not keep doing jazz. I met up with this great set of musicians, and they all played jazz, and we said, okay, it'll be a cool idea to do jazz, but it's quite possible that tomorrow I'm in Mississippi and Louisiana, and I see some swamp blues band, and I say, I want to do swamp blues. Or I'm around great ghazal musicians, and I say, oh, this would be a great idea to do 9 favorite ghazals of mine, or something like that. So I don't really have a plan, but I would just keep on, hopefully, playing it by ear, just coming up with stuff. And thanks very much for his patronage.
Okay, so Iqbal Abhimanyu wanted to know your views on Punjab and its relation to Sufism.
Punjab and its relation to Sufism. I should just first say, primarily, I'm a Punjabi migrant. I'm more a Dilliwala than I'm a Punjabi. So that's the caveat. So I can talk about what's my second-hand understanding of Punjabi society and literature. I think it all starts with Baba Farid. Baba Farid is the one person, I think, is the internal matrix of the Punjabi psyche. And I mean, if you really want to even mathematicalize it, you could. I mean, it all comes from him. And here's a Muslim, Sufi, and Punjabi. I mean, his contribution, he's like the Chaucer of Punjabi literature. And the way he does tatsam, tadbhav words, I mean, essentially, when you take loan words from other languages, you have to modify them. So they have some resonance in your own language. So the first guy who did that is Sheikh Farid. The first guy who paints a picture of contemporary society is Sheikh Farid. The first time somebody speaks in a feminine voice that I heard is Sheikh Farid. The first time somebody does these just infinitely cool little couplets, Farida, galiye chikkad dur kar naal pyare neho, challa ta pijja kambali raha ta tutta neho. Farida galiye chikkad, in my
the path outside my house in the street is full of mud, and there's love in my heart. So he says, there's mud in the street and love in my heart. If I walk, my blanket gets soiled. If I stay, the love gets soiled, you know. So, so those like crystalline Punjabisms, I think they all start here, and something that we all like now, something that we understand when you know, our ears perk up when we hear a truly Punjabi phrase. You know, the thing about Punjabi languages, the poetry is really out there on the surface. You know, it's the way people speak to each other. It's the way a grandmother, like my grandmother would say, "Teri aankhain kyun rondiyan ne?" She wouldn't say you are crying. She'd say, "Teri aankhain kyun rondiyan ne?" And you'd still not be crying, but she would just feel sadness in your eyes. So she would say that. And my father had many such phrases. My mother, and it all comes from that. So the poetry in Punjabi language is to be heard in everyday phrases, but I think perhaps that's to be heard in almost all languages. I can only talk about this because this is my mother tongue, because I didn't hear it in the Dilli Hindi, and I think that may be the reason I pivoted towards a 12th century Malayali dialect, because that's where I heard it. I received love in that language. I received it from my grandmother, my father.
Beautiful.
So Dilli, the present Dilli language is a functional language. It's a language of withdrawal, of running away, of escapism. It doesn't have. It maybe has some muscles, but it doesn't have sinews. It doesn't have what ties, and it doesn't have. It's got bones, but it doesn't have cartilage. You know. So it's a functional language. It's a language in which you order food from Zomato. It's not a language in which you tell somebody you love them. You know, like in school, we would wonder, how do you tell a girl you love them? Because "मैं तुमसे प्यार करता हूँ" seemed very fake. Or if you want to tell someone, I'm interested in you, then you say, "मेरी तुम्हारे में रुचि है." It felt fake. But we didn't really think that perhaps if we lived in an uninterrupted Dilli linguistic milieu, then perhaps we would say it differently. You know, there's lots of ways in which it's been said. I mean, if anything, the daily brand of poetry has more ways of saying it than anything else, but we didn't really know that. Yeah, so I don't know if I've answered that question or I'm going on a tangent here. So please
You are
pull
going
me
on
in.
a tangent, but you're going on a very beautiful poetic tangent, and it's very enjoyable. All right. But, you know, speaking of all of this, I have to say, like, you know, when COVID hit and everybody was just confined to their homes, there was a lot of talk about how capitalism even comes for refuge to poetry, to art, to music, to film, right? Because when you're sitting with yourself and you've got nothing else to do, and you can't go out and make money, and you can't feed the engine or be fed by the engine, it's the arts that keep you going. So I do wonder that, do we, as people in the creative space, do we sometimes overstate or romanticize our place in the world? Or do you think that there is, you know, in spite of art, in spite of music, in spite of everything, people are still killing each other? There's genocide, there's hunger, there's greed, there's all of that. What do you think is the role then of the arts?
Well, you're talking about the art being ineffective, art not being able to.
It's a question.
Not being able to penetrate. Oh, it's a valid question. It's a valid question. It should be answered by artists. But I don't think we have artists. We have craftsmen. You know, we have people. We have algorithm manipulators. We have algorithm surfers. We have digital creators. We have content creators. That's what they call it, right? Content. So everything is content. I think art, the way Heidegger meant it, or the way whether it can be a sort of agreement of our cohabitation. I think those projects have been sidelined in capitalism. And by the way, I'd like to make a distinction between capitalism and hyper-capitalism. You know, it's a subtle distinction, perhaps. You know, there is profiting and there is profiteering.
Yes.
So I think there is no, you can't really make a case against righteous profiting. I mean, you spend time, you work on something, you've taken time off other things, and you've created something, and you know you want a certain premium over for your labor. I think maybe it sounds fair to me, but profiteering doesn't. And this quarreling of vast swaths of population into forced working for the Leviathan. It's I think those are the things that should matter to us. I think that is why we are seeing an upsurge, an uptick in. I mean, if you look everywhere, there's just a right-wing government in place in every country. You know, it's if you go back in 60s and everything was left-wing. So I think there's something to be said about how we are all feeling at the moment. The more we get connected, the more we want to be separate. I think art has not articulated those concerns very forcibly, not forcibly. I don't think we have the artists present at the large stages. I don't see a Dylan. I don't see our friend hallelujah, hallelujah.
Leonard.
We don't see Cohen. And you don't even see Adam Turner of UK being given his, I think he's as gifted a poet as, Dylan and Cohen. But you see him, I mean, it must be said to the credit of the 60s music industry that they placed somebody like Dylan at the head of the train. You know?
Yeah.
So when you look at it, almost everything comes from Dylan. All the songs we've been singing, you think they come from this person or that person. It's all coming from Dylan. Musically, it's all coming from Robert Johnson. So there's something to be said about that. So I think if the hyper-capitalist forces do not intervene, that perhaps the needle can stop somewhere where it balances everything out. Yes. But right now we are seeing an intensification of forces that are leading to us mistaking crafts with arts.
It's very interesting you say that. It is very interesting, and it's very pertinent because, and you've articulated it so beautifully, because why we are consuming so much, but how much is staying, how much is sticking, how much is really just,
No, it's not meant to stick. It's not meant to stay. It's not meant to form any lasting change in us. It's not supposed to change us. I wanted to write a song. I mean, this is what I would tell myself. I want to change the world. I didn't want to have an artist's ego or a rock star's ego. I wanted to have an artist, like a giant art, a Michelangelo's ego, or Dylan's ego. I wanted bigger than an auditorium ego. I wanted to be able to change something. So I think we see ego, but it's a very small, trivial, superficial ego. We don't really see that.
Where's the big fire? Where's the big
Yeah,
ego?
where's that Jungian dive into the unconscious and swimming up with a pearl? I don't really think that is. I mean, in hindsight, I can't even say I did that, but but I recognize people who do that. I see Cohen do that. I see Adam Turner do that, and Dylan does this day in and day out.
I want to ask you, are there any new voices, especially South Asian voices, men, women, upcoming, current, contemporary, who excite you, who you feel like listening to or watching perform?
No. But I should say this, I see great hope in the inherent robustness of Indian literature, Indian art forms. Despite everything, I don't see Indian classical music having faded away. You see something of the impeccable standards and beauty of Shri Venkatesh Kumar singing. You still see Vasantrao Deshpande singing. You still see Hariharan singing. You still see. I see. I mean, in my opinion, the basic, the most foundational art form of India, ghazal. You don't see it vanishing away. It is still. You go on YouTube and there's millions of people listening to it.
Yes.
Yeah, and so every now and then there is a couplet that does catch my attention. Can I say something of the class of Mirza Ghalib has emerged? I don't really know if it has. I'm not there. But on the other hand, you see somebody like Gagan Gill winning the Sahitya Academy Award. I mean, she bears no loyalty to anyone. I know it.
And so that, yes, I mean, when
something like that slips through the cracks. So there's things like that. But I don't see that kind of art. I mean, when I was growing up, there was an M.F. Hussain, there was a Ram Kumar, there was a Nirmal Verma. I'm talking about Delhi. There was a Sonal Man Singh doing Odyssey. There was Anupam Sood's paintings. Anupam Sood gets me each time. So there was that. There was Bhajan Sapori doing Spick McKay Santoor concerts in Khalsa College, Rana House.
I haven't had Spick McKay in like 30 years, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, but it was the big thing those days. This was how we hippie trippy, slightly arty people. It was an arty social club, right? So
yes.
So that is there. You see, the art, the standard bearers of, I think, Indian art. The Bengalis haven't faded away. Their language is being kept alive. They pass it down. The one remarkable thing is, I have met people who have not lived in Bengal for 4 generations, still speaking to their kids in Bengali.
That's wonderful. Yeah. And my kids are a little bit suspect in that manner, but yes, I know that sometimes the diaspora does a better job, or I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing, but I live in Australia and I see a lot of this sort of
No, it's migrant anxiety, and but it works. It works both ways. So
yes,
I both of my kids speak Punjabi, and they speak Punjabi with me.
that's wonderful.
My son is also into Punjabi literature.
Oh, how old is your son?
He's going on 17.
Okay.
So he's into it. So I might say that this I passed on the baton, but it's not as if Punjab has taken to passing on the baton in a big way. But I think Bengal does, maybe Gujarat does. I think all of South India does.
Yes.
I think it's only us farmers from North India that we think culture is agriculture. So, but then again, you see Punjabi surviving and how we have a big bona fide, world class, rock star in the form of Diljit Dosanjh right now. So something somewhere does slip through. My interest is in. I see myself as the non-bombastic, bombastic Punjabi. I want what I say, what I have to say, to be so universal or have such undeniability that it slips through the cracks or all the defenses. But I don't necessarily want to leverage or marshal art forms. And I want to say, Bhangra is doing well, so maybe just do this. Let me just listen to club and let me just do this. Oh, you know what? Self-congratulatory, backslapping Punjabi themes really do well, so let me just do that. I would like to say, can I say something like Harbhajan Singh? Harbhajan Singh is the favorite Punjabi poet. Can I come close to that? Can I say something of the undeniability, rustic, poetic quality of maybe a Hashim, maybe a Bahu, maybe a Bulleh, maybe Farid? Well, that's shooting too far.
You set your standards right up there, which is amazing.
Well, you shoot for the moon and you land somewhere in the neighbor's yard, maybe. But
do you think there's anything you can read to me or recite or anything at all, something short from a favorite Punjabi poet, maybe? That would be wonderful.
We're talking about Farid. I could just read a lot of it or recite a lot of it, but you won't understand it. So should I just?
It's okay if I don't. It'll still be something, you did your jazz concert in Italy and you were speaking Punjabi, so
I can just. Jit dihade tanwari sahe lai likhaye malak je kanni sunida muh de khale aaye jind nimani kaddiya hadda ku kadkaye sahe likhe na chalni jindu ku samjhaye ਜਿੰਦ ਵੋਟੀ ਮਰਨ ਵਾਰ ਲੈ ਜਾਸੀ ਪਰਣਾਏ ਆਪਣ ਹੱਥੀ ਜੋਲਕਾਏ ਕਹਿ ਗੱਲ ਲੱਗਾ ਤਾਏ ਵਾਲੋ ਨਿੱਕੀ ਪੁਰਸਲਾਤ ਕੰਨੀ ਨਾ ਸੁਣਿਆਏ ਫਰੀਦਾ ਕਿੜੀ ਪਵੰਦੀ ਖੜਾ ਨਾ ਆਪ ਮੁਹਾਏ ਫਰੀਦਾ ਦਰ ਦਰ ਵੇਸੀ ਗਾਖੜੀ ਚੱਲਾਂ ਦੁਨੀਆ ਪੱਤ ਬਨ ਉਠਾਈ ਪੋਟਲੀ ਕਿੱਥੇ ਵੰਜਾਂ ਕੱਤ ਕਿਜ ਨਾ ਬੁੱਝਾਏ ਕਿਜ ਨਾ ਸੁਝਾਏ ਦੁਨੀਆ ਗੁੱਜੀ ਭਾਹੇ ਸਾਈਂ ਮੇਰੇ ਚੰਗਾ ਕੀਤਾ ਨਹੀਂ ਤਾਂ ਹਮ ਵੀ ਤਜਾਂ ਆਏ ਫਰੀਦਾ ਜੇ ਜਾਣਾ ਤਿਲ ਥੋੜੜੇ ਸੰਮਲ ਬੁੱਕ ਭਰੀ ਜਾਏ ਮਿਲਾ ਤਿਨਾ ਸੱਜਣਾ ਥੋੜਾ ਮਾਣ ਕਰੀ ਜੇ ਜਾਣਾ ਲੜ ਛਿਜਣਾ ਪੀੜੀ ਪਾਈ ਗੰਢ ਤੈ ਜੇ ਵੱਡ ਮੈਂ ਨਾਹਿਕੋ ਸਭ ਜਗ ਡਿੱਠਾ ਹੰਡ. I can go on and on. This is
I love your eyes light up when you were reciting that. All right. Thank you so much. I mean, that was wonderful. I think I could spend many hours just listening to you talk so many things. But I really appreciate your time and all the things that you've shared. And hopefully, there'll be something new that'll come up again. People have asked, like, is there anything new you're working on? Is there any new album, new film, new music?
I must have 2 albums worth of music just locked away.
Oh my goodness, why is that? You can see people are impatient to hear more from you. So
See, Nandini, the thing is that in 2007, the carpet was swept from under our feet. Indie music. So my fame, my all that I have right now was built. I didn't understand it then. Was built on the support that mass media gave us, that TV gave us, Channel V gave us, MTV gave us. They stopped playing us after 2007, and then radio won't play you. Radio say you must be a hit before I can play you. So what that means is that you take truckloads of money, give it to YouTube, chart up unrealistic, fantastical numbers, and then radio starts playing you. So basically, big capital has just taken all organicity out of the game. And unless I can find how to crack this, there's no point, releasing something and it's just sitting in the corner of an internet and people are not knowing. I refuse to do crazy PR. I refuse to spend truckloads of money on YouTube trying to, get the word out. I think
perhaps you discount how much you are loved, and you won't have to do any of that madness. People will throng.
Well, I've tried and I'll try again. And
Yes, please do.
maybe I'll heed your advice. And there's plenty of stuff out there. I'm working on something right now. It's what I do to keep myself sane.
Wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. And thank you so much again. And look forward to listening to all that stuff that's in the closet.
Thank you.